Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look at ways that we can more effectively minister in the body of Christ. Today we have with us Dr. Neal Gilland. Dr. Gilland has worked with Free Will Baptist International Missions for several years, and prior to that he worked with folks in Ivory Coast as a dorm parent. He attended Welch College. He's also a graduate with an MS degree and PhD degree in counseling psychology from Tennessee State University. So it's a pleasure to have you here with us today, Dr. Gilland. It's good to have you, my friend. So you work with our missionaries.
That's correct.
You provide member care to them, and so our churches pray for our missionaries. They do what they can to more effectively support them and serve them. Tell us, what are things we can do to provide member care as individual churches and folks out in our community?
Yeah, let me start with some probably a little different place than maybe you were thinking. The world of missions has changed significantly in the past few years, even since I was young. When I was young, when a missionary came to church, it was a big deal.
Yes.
Because we didn't have internet, we had evening news, but we had the World Book Encyclopedia. And I remember going home every time a missionary came, and you ran home and read about Spain, or you read about Ivory Coast, and they would bring all their artifacts. Well, today the world shrank.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so I'm talking to my farmer neighbor who's been to Europe.
Yes.
When I was a child, either the military, rich people, or missionaries are the only ones who traveled. Now everybody does.
Yeah.
And so there's not that sense of
awe
and specialness that missionaries, I think, used to have. I don't think, we used to put them on a pedestal. I don't think that's as true as it used to be. Mm-hmm. Not that that was a good thing or a bad thing. It's just the way it was.
Yes.
And so now when they come to your church, it's not as special as it used to be. Mm-hmm. At least that's my observation. Mm-hmm. But I do think there are things that churches can do that will be very beneficial to missionaries. One is ask them to come.
Yes.
Ask
them there.
Ask them to come and do your homework before they get there. I have gone as a missionary. I've gone to churches, and then they ask me where I serve.
Oh no.
They know nothing about me. It's I shouldn't say half the time, but some of the times they didn't even remember I was coming.
Oh no.
So it's not just prepare that way, but prepare your people for what they're going to do, and give them plenty of time to share. When a missionary comes to your church, they're coming for a reason, and they want to share as much as they can.
Right.
Giving them 5 or 10 minutes probably is not going to do it.
Right.
Even a Sunday morning service. So let them speak in Sunday school. Let them take them out to dinner, but take families with you. I always say, ask them how they want to do housing. Because some missionaries will want to stay in homes. Some would rather stay in a hotel. But I would always ask.
Right.
So they would know, especially if you have children. Missionaries like to stay in homes that have children, because then they can be an influence to them.
Well, let's think about that for a bit. So you started out talking about how it's lost some of its shininess.
Yeah, I think
we're not as excited about missionaries. So maybe we want to pull back from that a little bit, and we want to think, well, really, this is a big deal, because when someone does go somewhere else, usually we're seeing the best part of that place, and we're seeing the best presentation. Lots of our missionaries are in dangerous places. When we think about conflicts, especially like the United States, sometimes missionaries are targets. So maybe as church members, we try to take back and have some of that, and remember, now this person's really special. They've been in some difficult places, often working in some difficult situations, and maybe if you're the pastor talking about it, them coming, or you're a teacher talking about it with your class, kind of build that up. The other part you mentioned was know something about them. And so it wouldn't hurt for the church to kind of study up about the country and the particular region. And you guys have a pretty good website, don't you?
Right.
That they
can do that.
They could go and they could find out what's happening with that particular missionary, and that could help out as well. So let's talk also about giving the missionaries time. Now, we had a survey that we did of churches a couple of weeks ago, and the number one visitor they said, was missionaries. So there's still some of that there. But then what you're also saying is let's give the missionary their time.
Yeah, I think sometimes the mindset in our churches is we want them to come, but we don't want to overwork them. And we're coming and we're saying, no,
Please.
That's why we're here.
Right.
We want to talk to as many people as we possibly can, because the more we share our story, the more you're going to pray, the more you're going to be supportive, whether it's through prayer or financially, you're going to be supportive of us. As much as they can be used, most of our missionaries want to be used every moment that they can.
So you
will
that
not
time
overwork them.
Okay, that is good to know, because we do tend to think, oh, they need a break.
Yeah.
You're saying let them have the life group or Sunday school hour.
Absolutely.
Let them talk with several families, maybe a Saturday night before.
Absolutely.
Or after service on a Sunday afternoon, and so forth.
And another thing that a church can do that's going to help them understand that missionary is, before they come, they're going to know usually a couple months in advance. Subscribe to the prayer letter.
Okay. Yes.
Or they can get on our website and look at the prayer letters, or see them on Facebook or whatever social media that you use, and get the updates. Read them. I always say communicate with your missionaries. Now we fuss at our missionaries. You need to communicate with your constituents, but I think the reverse is too. I remember as a missionary, probably one of the best things that ever happened was Dennis Wiggs.
Yes.
Who every so often we would get a handwritten note from him, just saying, "Hey, I just want you to know." Now that was back the day before email and internet.
But
he said, "I just want you to know I'm praying. I prayed for you Sunday." Or prayed for you this week, and it was an incredible encouragement to it. And I never knew Dennis Wiggs from the Man in the Moon, other than I knew that this was a wonderful man praying for me.
Who was sending something to you. So a lot of our listeners are on Facebook or Twitter or any number of other social media outlets. So if your missionary puts something out there, please like it. Maybe share it. That might not be a bad thing.
One other thing I was going to say, too, is know their family.
Yes.
Years ago, there was an article in the old Heartbeat that says, God called us, not our children. I totally disagree with that. I think God calls families, not just. So know who their kids are. I know one church who provided Christmas for their kids. And so those kids had young people had a relationship with that church, most of whom they have never met. I remember one of them came to Welch to go to school. I took him back to that church so he could say thanks for doing Christmas for them. So get to know their families and about them personally.
So know their names, know their birthdays, the anniversaries. It might help also to think about what it's like for those kids, the different challenges they have.
They have some significant challenges.
Talk to us a bit about that, and that will help our folks maybe better pray for them.
Well, since I wrote my dissertation on it, I could talk a very long time about this.
In a smaller...
but I won't. Missionary kids do have some challenges. In the literature, we say they have some liabilities.
Yes.
If you ask them where home is, they can't tell you. You and I can tell you. You're from North Carolina. I'm from Ohio. That's where home is. They can't tell you that. When I was doing my research, one of the things is I asked the question, where do you identify most with? Your passport culture or your home culture? Or your host culture? And they would almost every one of them said we identify highly with both of them. Some literature calls them global nomads. They don't have any place that they can really call home. And so that's one of the liabilities. But I also think there's more assets than there are liabilities to being a missionary kid. All of them have different experiences, but they learn a different language, they learn another culture. Sometimes they do struggle when they come back here because it's so different. So it's so different.
It's important for us to keep that in mind and know that's
and pray for them. Pray for them.
Part of what they've got, but also we can take advantage of some of that too.
Oh, absolutely.
And so we do want to pray for them, and especially when they're going through those particular transitions and things as well. So we definitely give, we definitely pray, we identify with them, we send them messages via social media. I also want to bring up, don't forget our older people in our churches. So,
absolutely.
Some of our folks forget, that just because we see it on Facebook doesn't mean that they do. Print that out for your folks at your church. Give it to them.
Get the hotline that comes out every Wednesday so you can pray.
Pass it off.
And you said about giving. Let me say a word about giving.
Yes.
When missionaries are coming to your church, they're coming
yes.
for a reason.
Yes.
They have to raise support to get there. I wish it wasn't that way in some ways, but it also gives us the opportunity to be involved in what they're doing from a financial perspective. I would tell you, probably one of the heaviest burdens missionaries carry is being able to fund themselves to go back or to go back.
Right.
And nobody likes to ask for money, but we have to.
Yes.
And that's part of it. And I have traveled over 2 hours where I got no offering. So, as you're getting ready for that missionary, it may be you put them in the budget. It may be you make the appeal to your people and not the missionary have to do that, or the missionary will do that as well, but you make the appeal too, because we want to support them. They deserve it.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think we forget there are different skill sets that people have. And so there's folks that are really good at raising money.
Absolutely.
A lot of missionaries, not so much, but probably
that are incredible missionaries.
And
but
it's a different skill set.
And it is personality driven in a lot of ways. I didn't have a lot of trouble raising money because I think I had a personality that was very extroverted and out there, where some guys are very introverted. They don't do so well in front of people, but they're incredible on the field. They make me look bad on the field.
So we want to remember that whether you're a church member or you're a pastor, just keep that in the back of your head there that, Mr. Extrovert person could be very effective or be very impressive, but also the person that's kind of quiet is probably a pretty good missionary too, and so we want to still support them and help them and make it as easy as we can.
Absolutely.
So they're raising money, trying to go back. They're overseas, and people haven't seen them for a little bit. One thing could be that we have Skype and Zoom and Facebook Live now. Maybe some of our churches could reconnect with them a bit that way. It's a whole lot less expensive.
A lot of our churches do that.
Yes.
Skype. Now, if you're in Japan, it's tough.
Yes.
Because you got to get up in the middle of the night to do that. But I think most of our missionaries are willing to do that.
I know we did that a lot, and I think we did the Kettlemans, and I suspect it was not the best time for them, but they did, and they seemed to be happy to do it. And that's another way we can do this without it being so expensive on our folks and bringing them out. So you've given us a lot to think about. We think about praying, we think about giving, and let's just expand on the giving a bit more. I think you've been to Cuba, I've been to Cuba, and a lot of folks from the past gave to Pop and Mom Willie and others, and you can see the fruits of that. It's a nation close to us. That would be the case with all of our missionaries. You're giving to someone you're probably not going to meet.
Probably so.
But it's an investment for eternity.
Well, you will meet them one day.
You will. You will
meet them.
We'll meet them in heaven.
And if by the way, one of the other things I would say is sign up for THB, go on a trip.
Yes.
Because if you went to Cuba, I promise you'll pray for Cuba.
You'll feel differently about it.
You'll feel differently about it when you've smelled and tasted. We always say you can't unsee what you've seen.
So expand on that a little bit. THP.
Yeah, the Hannah Project. Lots of opportunities. Again, go on the Hannah Project website. You can see the all the various trips. There's probably 7 or 8 trips every year that we take somewhere. A lot of times it's for people who have skills that I don't have.
Right.
I just went on a trip to Côte d'Ivoire where they were doing construction and medical. I can hold a paintbrush and I can hold a board. I held the pencil.
Yes,
but it changed colors on me, threw me off a little bit. But I can't do a lot of that. But a lot of people in our churches can, and they're really good at it. And it gives them an opportunity. And while we're there, they also get a chance to do ministry, to go to church with them. And that's such a wonderful thing. You've had that experience of worshiping in another culture where you understand nothing except that they're worshiping the same God that you're worshiping.
So
it's a beautiful thing.
look at your skill set. Are you
Yeah.
a nurse? Are you in construction? Or any number of things. If they'll go to that website.
We've got a team in Bulgaria now handing out Christmas shoe boxes.
Folks can do that,
Yeah,
can't they?
anybody can do that.
So anyone can do that, and it's a way to you travel to another country. You've got that aspect, but you just talked about the body of Christ, seeing them worship. You're able to participate in that, even if you don't understand it. You do understand
It's one of my
some
favorite
of it.
things to
That's
be in a
great.
service where you don't understand a word they're saying, but know what
It's
they're
a
saying.
neat. It's neat.
It is a neat experience.
So you've given us a lot to think about. Are there other things we need to consider as we think about member care?
Just try as a church, and not every missionary is going to have this kind of relationship, but to be a safe place.
Yes.
A lot of times they come back with some really heavy stuff that they're dealing with, and they really need to talk to somebody. By the way, what we find, though, most of the time is a pastor will need to talk to the missionary.
Yes.
Because they don't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah.
And they can mutually do that, but be a safe place. As a counselor, you will know this. Confidentiality is just a huge thing.
Yes.
And so when they talk to you, let them talk to you, even though it may be, stuff
Unpleasant,
that
yeah.
it's unpleasant, or things
You don't
that
want
you
to
didn't
know,
expect
or-
to
yeah.
hear from a missionary. I'm tired, I'm wore out, I'm upset with the office, or whatever.
Right.
They may just need to talk. Try to be that safe place
Yeah.
for them that they can do that.
Oh, that's good. So be a
Give
safe
them-
place, a place. So we do want them to relax, and
Yeah.
they can do that on their own way while still
If
being
they feel
able to
comfortable,
accomplish.
they feel comfortable with you doing that.
That's great. That's great.
But a part of that is involved with having those communications all the time that they're on the field, where you building that kind of relationship with them. That's really important. Most churches have a missionary or two that they are really close to.
And so spend time. Social media is a good outlet. The email is a good outlet. If you can make a trip with the Hannah Project or some other means, try to do that. Should maybe encourage some of their college students and high school students to how might they get them involved as well.
I said this at Truth and Peace a number of years ago. I said, every one of you could give a missionary $10 a month. Every one of you. And don't tell me you can't, because I watched you at Starbucks.
Right.
Every one of you can. After I said that, Alan Pointer got up and he said, I totally disagree. He said, you can give $20 a month, and if you don't, you're out of God's will.
Oh, boy.
How they need to start
Right,
at that
giving
age.
and thinking.
Remember the old quarter folders that kids
Yes.
would do, and now we have the little boxes.
Yes.
We need to start in that practice of giving early, but not just that, of praying, getting them involved. I was with a family, and I hope this won't be too long, but I was with a family. Their little girl, who's now a college student, crawled up in my lap. She was 3 years old, with a stack of prayer cards, and went through every one of them. Told me she couldn't read. Told me who their name were and all the kids' names.
Oh,
And I go, how do you do that? Every day at supper, we use prayer cards, and we pray for these missionaries and talk about them. So families can do that, but when you start them out that early, then time they get to college, they're engaged with
They're
missions.
ready.
And again, we have mission opportunities for high school students with E-Team and college missions programs where they can take a trip as well.
and so then if they've gone and they've done an E-team with a church, when you've had that missionary there, ooh, you're just starting to put a lot of things together.
Kurt has the figures, but I think it's over 70% of our missionary force now has been on started on short-term trips.
That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's some good information, my friend, and I think you've given us a lot to think about. So we need to pray, we need to give. Maybe we need to add some more, lift our missionaries up as far as realizing where they've been.
And no missionary wants to be put on a pedestal.
Yeah,
I don't put them there, but I just think they deserve it.
I agree.
I just think they are special people who have stepped away from their culture, learned another language, live away from family. I think we ought to honor that.
It's a big deal.
I just think that when I was a little kid, they were my heroes. They still are.
There you go.
They still
Excellent.
are.
Thank you, Dr. Gilliland. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
for being
Thank
with
you
us
for
today.
allowing me to share.